Hi there. Welcome to the first episode of Dilyn's Dialogues. I've created an outline because this is my very first recording and it might be a little clumsy. I am a little nervous. I guess that's to be expected for the first time doing something like this. So there's that. And also, before I get into things, I need to share an important disclaimer. I'm not a licensed mental health professional. This is not a substitute for therapy. Some of the content that I talk about may be triggering. And if you are triggered, please pause and do some grounding work. Reach out to a trusted person, friend, family member, therapist, or call the crisis line 988. So, without further ado, Dilyn's Dialogues. I chose dialogue because the Greek word dia means through, and logos means word. And so a loose translation of dialogue is finding meaning through words. And that's really what this is about, is being vulnerable and sharing stories and finding not only meaning in that, but healing in that. And also I thought it was catchy with my name, Dilyn's Dialogues, so there's that. So I'm going to give you a little background. I actually have a lot of background, but who doesn't, right? But I'm not going to get deep in this particular episode. We can save all that for other episodes. This is just basically an introductory episode. But I do need to share a little background just to kind of bring you to where I am today and the decision that I made recently and why I'm starting this channel or podcast. In the summer of 2021, I had a family of origin crisis, and it was destabilizing, to say the least. I was a mess. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, cried all the time, super depressed. Summer of 2022, another family of origin crisis, and it just was re-traumatizing. By the summer of 2023, I entered therapy, and therapy has been immensely helpful and life-saving and difficult as shit. Fuck, I'm gonna cuss, so if you don't like that, sorry. Anyway, I was diagnosed with late onset PTSD, but the DSM doesn't recognize complex PTSD, but that's really what I have. There's a difference between PTSD and CPTSD, and that difference is that PTSD is typically when someone has an acute trauma, basically that they had an identity before the trauma happened, and then they have to heal from that. Complex PTSD is typically ongoing chronic trauma that happens typically in childhood. And usually it doesn't allow a person, a child, to find themselves there is no knowing who you were before the trauma. There was just always trauma. So it affects you in different ways. Hopefully the DSM will eventually catch up with this and make it an official diagnosis. Anyway, by the summer of 2024, I decided that this was my calling. Oh my gosh, like I'm going to be a therapist now, and I'm going to help other people through this, because this, it was like once I had the diagnosis and I could figure out why I was a zombie and I couldn't work my way through this on my own, it all clicked, and I thought, oh, I have to help other people. So I had a job for 23 years and I quit. And I had always wanted to go back to school and get my bachelor's degree. I have a a degree from my hometown in medical assisting, and didn't end up really using that much, just for about a year. And then I moved, I relocated to the West Coast and got a job, and I kept it for 23 years, raised my son. And, sure, there were challenges in that job, and there were times that I hated it, but, I needed it, and I kept the job. And so at this point now, I'm like, oh, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to become a therapist. So I had about a year left for associates in psychology. And so I quit. I went back to school. I got my associates for transfer in psychology. I graduated May 2025. August 20th, I turned 50. And that day I started pursuing my undergraduate bachelor's degree in psychology at the local university. And I was, I got accepted into the honors program, and I was gonna go through the master's, and I was even talking about, possibly going further and getting a doctorate degree. And I had these classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays that were just unlike any classes I had had before. They were not structured. The instructors were just all over the map. You couldn't figure out what was expected. They didn't have clear guidelines, and I was feeling so stressed. And without getting into a whole lot of detail, I mean, some of them had group work, and the groups weren't working out. And one of the groups, two ladies ended up fighting, and I ended up mitigating the fighting, and just, it was so stressful. So by this past weekend, I had a complete meltdown, just inconsolable crying, hours and hours and hours. I was exhausted. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I had to take Excedrin PM just to sleep. My head was pounding. I felt like I didn't have any tears left to cry, and yet somehow I would still cry. I tried all my coping mechanisms, breathing and taking a walk and taking a bath, and nothing was helping. And I finally realized, through much contemplation, this isn't the path for me. I am trying to push myself and persevere like I've done my whole life. And I just keep fighting and keep fighting and keep fighting against the tide. And it's time to stop, to breathe, and to listen to myself, to listen to my body. My body is telling me, this is too stressful for you. You are not having fun. Why are you doing this? So I had to reevaluate, what am I doing? I quit my job, my whole goal. Everybody in my life knows that I'm going back to school. How am I going to tell everybody? The inner critic starts coming out and haunting me and questioning me. And yet through that, I just kept grounding myself in the fact that it's okay to pivot. It's okay to change my mind. This is my life, and I can live my life how I want. And the people that accept that and are there for me and support me, those are the true people that I want in my life. And the people that don't, the ones who judge me, well, that says something more about them than it does me. And so I decided yesterday to go on campus for the very last time, drop all of my classes, say goodbye to the honors program, and start this podcast and start writing. So eventually, my hope for this podcast is that I can be vulnerable with you and tell my truth, and that's healing for me. And I hope that it resonates with others and heals them as well. And perhaps, you know, that I can build this to a point where I can interview others. I would love to have some guests on, you know, especially just everyday people that struggle, because, you know, that's what we all are, right? You know, we're just the everyday people that are down in the trenches struggling with the regularities of life. Yeah, so that's my hope, and my vision for this new journey that I'm on. And you know, for the first time in a month or so, I feel relief. I feel relief. I feel grateful that I even have the opportunity to do this. And I feel like I'm honoring myself. I'm honoring my body. I'm finally to a point in my healing process where I can be aware enough to make this change and to pivot and not beat myself up about it, to have self-compassion. And sure, that critic is still there. Believe me, just this morning I woke up, the first thing I thought is, oh my gosh, what have you done? I had that same thought when I quit my job of 23 years. Like, oh my gosh, what have you done? Excuse my dog in the background. And, you know, when that voice comes up, I just have to say, why am I forcing myself, right? I made this decision. This feels right for me for now. And I no longer want to ignore the signals that my body is giving me, because every one of us has signals, whether we're aware of them, whether we're listening to them, whether we try to push them down or persevere through them, which believe me, I've done my whole life. But I'm tired of fighting, and I'm tired of not listening to my body. Not only does it not feel good, but it's not good for us. So I'm shifting directions. And I'm choosing not to view this as a failure, a college dropout failure, but rather an opportunity for something new, to be true to myself and to do something that I've been thinking about doing for the longest time. So for me, right now, I would have been getting out of that really, really stressful class. And instead, I'm sitting here stress-free. Well, not completely, because, you know, this is a little bit nerve-wracking, but exciting at the same time. Like, I'm doing something I've always wanted to do, and that's amazing. And so I hope that you come on this journey with me, and that we can heal each other through sharing and storytelling and being vulnerable. So thank you for listening, and until next time, be safe and be well.